It's a pleasure to have you here. The details now. The Electoral Commission says Tuesday's special voting exercise was largely successful as the process ran smoothly in many parts of the country. Now, this sets the tone for the polls on Election Day next Monday. The Commission says it's working to resolve what it calls minor glitches, such as names not being found on the special voting list in parts of the northern, Eastern and Greater Accra regions. Now, there was also the issue of people taking photos of their ballot sheets after they had cast their votes. Here in the Greater Accra region, in the Krowo constituency, the police arrested 2 voters for allegedly taking photo shots of their ballot paper. And this Menu has the rest of the story.
Here at the Peshi Divisional Headquarters of the police at Nongwa, the venue for the special voting, the event has been smooth so far. We had voters adhering to the COVID-19 protocols, going through the processes to cast their ballot peacefully. Indeed, there have not been any security concerns here. But however, at midday, there were 2 incidents that were recorded. 2 individuals were arrested by the police, first on the instance of the EC officials and second by other observers for allegedly taking a shot of their ballot paper on their phones. Now, they were interrogated by the police. They denied the claim. It has been a bit of a contention. They remain behind bars as we speak because the police say they have found the evidence of the ballot paper on their phone. There was a 3rd incident recorded not long after that. An NDC agent here accused the lady of taking a shot of her ballot paper. Eventually, when she was taken in by the police for interrogation, they found no such evidence of taking a picture of her ballot paper. She has been let go and discharged. However, the accounting of the ballot is underway by the election officials here at the Krowo constituency.
The presiding officer for polling station B, Forson, presiding officer for polling station B. The total number on the register was 414, and then for the presidential, 359 voted, and parliamentary 357 voted. Yes, that's.
So far, are the agents satisfied with the protest? Did they raise any challenge?
No, they didn't raise any challenge. So far, they have been very peaceful, and the protest has been very smooth. The agent did not have any problems.
The 2 major candidates, Elizabeth Afolekwe, who is the incumbent, the Member of Parliament for Krowo and the Minister of Fisheries, is poised. She says she believes she's going to win the constituency again, but this time a wider margin. In 2016, she won by a little over 2,600 votes, and she came up against a strong contender who had just about 3 months to campaign for the elections, Agnes Namumulate. Agnes is back on the ballot paper for 2020, and she says she's going to give the
This is very significant for me because every individual vote counts. So it is really important. The total number expected to vote here is over 400. So for me, it's very significant. Yes. Hopefully, I'm winning this one too, and I know that I'm winning the national or the general elections on the 7th of December. It's been very peaceful. It's been very, very peaceful, and I expect that on the 7th of December, the same environment will persist, and everybody will be very comfortable. We'll go about expressing our franchise, you know, in a very peaceful manner.
There have been a few incidents of alleged, of people allegedly taking a shot of their ballot, and I understand the police is handling that matter. I'm sure that has come to you. What do you make of that?
I don't know why anybody would want to do that. These days, a lot of things happen. People just get excited with social media. This morning, I saw some people displaying some ballots on social media. Maybe they are just excited. They just want to display their votes or something.
I came into the race about 3 months to elections, and I had 30,000 plus votes. And she's been in, or she was in 2 years or a year and a half before I came in, and she had 32,000 plus. That gives me the confidence that the people didn't neglect me. Even though I did not win the race, I was actually a good competitor. And they know that I'm giving them a good run for their money, in spite of all the resources and the money they are sharing.
So the issue of voters taking photos of their ballot sheets has generated some conversation, especially as many wonder what part of the law forbids voters from doing that. Well, thankfully, we have lawyer Martin People to help with some answers. Thank you for your time this morning, lawyer. What does the law say about persons taking photographs of their ballot papers after they've decided who to vote for?
So the law, specifically, when we say the law, we are talking about the Representation of People's Act. The Representation of People's Act. Part of it is popularly called the ROPA. What the law specifically states is that a voter shall not communicate what he has voted to any other person. So meaning that when the voter enters he takes the ballot and then enters the booth and casts the vote or the ballot, he's not supposed to communicate information about it to any other person. If a voter does that, that voter has committed a crime and can be fined. Can be fined or sent to jail for up to 2 years. So that is section 31 that we are talking about of the Representation of the People's Act. Yeah. Yeah.
So is there any criminal punishment for this? I just want us to get into that bit because there are some lawyers who hold the view that it's not a criminal offense. And so if somebody decides to waive that right to have their vote secret, for example, you cannot arrest them. And if you even arrest them, what charges are you going to prefer?
No, that's it. Unless I didn't hear well, let's go over so that I will be sure I heard well. You mean when the voter has voted and takes a picture of it and sends to any other person, some people are saying that's not a crime.
I am saying that my vote is my secret, right?
Yes.
And I'm saying that there are some lawyers who believe that I also have the right to waive that, to say that, okay, it's my secret. For example, in an exit poll, I can tell you who I voted for, right? That's not a crime. Is it a crime to say I voted for person A, B, or C?
Oh, yeah, no, that one is not a crime. But
okay.
When you take the picture, you see, taking the picture and sending it out, that is where there's a problem. So
okay.
Listen, let's go, let's do this, see how it's even stated. It says that no person shall, so I'm talking about section 31C. It says no person shall, directly or indirectly, induce a voter to display his ballot paper after he has marked or selected it, so as to make known to another person the name of the candidate for whom he has or has not voted. Yes. So
is the key word here not induce? So if I decide on my own to do that, is that a criminal offense?
Okay, by yourself, not any other person prompting you.
Not at all.
Okay, yes. Oh, then that one definitely. The law doesn't prescribe that. It says that, it doesn't, there's nothing specifically saying that you cannot do so.
All right.
But so specifically, that's the voter himself, specifically telling who he has voted for. Yes, there's no express prohibition against that.
So in this case where persons have been arrested for taking photographs of their ballot sheets, what then happens? Does this become a no case at all?
Yeah, looking at it, that's going to be a very tall order for the police or whoever is investigating that case. At least based on section 31, that's going to be a very tall order.
Okay. Lawyer, what about people who've also had their phones taken from them and searched because there was suspicion that they may have taken photographs of their ballot papers while they were in the booth? Is the police or any other security person allowed to just take my phone and say, I want to go through your photos?
That is the one I was referring to originally. That is wrong. No other person shall do so. So that's the classical one that the law provides against. So the law is saying that when a voter is in the booth casting his ballot, no person shall attempt to see exactly what that person is doing or ask him to display the ballot so that this other person can see what the voter has voted for.
Lawyer, I don't know if you're struggling to hear me, but what I'm asking is, let me use a scenario. I finish casting my vote and I step out, and then a security official thinks that I may have taken a photograph which they say or claim is illegal, and so they take my phone and they start searching my photos. Even though I didn't do anything like that in the first place, do they have that right to take my phone and search it based on suspicion that I may have taken a photo of my ballot sheet?
Oh, okay. No, not expressly provided in this law. So it's not expressly provided that taking the photo is a crime in itself. It is when, okay, and also, yes, if you voluntarily share it, so far, it means that there is some lacuna in the law, yes.
Okay.
If you voluntarily share to not a crime. So the police don't have any locus in taking the phone.
Doesn't this then leave a gap in the law, because then questions are also raised about possible vote buying as a result of these photos, and so people may want to use them as evidence to say, look, I voted for person A or B, so you need to maybe pay me or compensate me, or it is a confirmation of some part payment for which they may want the full payment of. How do we deal with this law to address the possibility of this being used for vote buying?
Yeah, so obviously in that case, we will need an amendment, because if you look at it, the law has specifically prohibited the EC officials, the interpreters, election agents, and the rest from communicating such information. And yet, we didn't prescribe the voter himself communicating it. So it's a lacuna. I join in that call for us to look at the law again in terms of this taking the voter himself taking pictures of it and sending it out.
All right, lawyer, I have one of our viewers on social media who has a question, and I just want to put that to you to help get some answers. Does the police require a warrant to search my phone?
Oh, yes, it's usually standard. Even if they suspect you've committed an offense, what they can do is to seize, but they cannot, ipso facto, go ahead to search. No. There's a decision of the court against unlawful searches. So you see, let's do this. The law has struck a balance. If you suspect the person has committed a crime, obviously you cannot go to court to go and get a search warrant and come back. Maybe the person would have fled. So the police can initially seize the phone, okay? But they cannot go ahead to search. No, to search, then they would need a warrant from the court. Because you see, when you go into a phone, there are different parts of the phone, private data and all that. Okay. So in order to be able to search, you have to come to court, justify to the court. Then the court will restrict the police as to what they are searching for. Not that they will be like an octopus all over in every part of the phone.
All right.
That's why the search warrant is very important.
All right. Give me a few minutes. I'll come back to you to find out what your take is on whether the EC or its officials have the power to turn people back when they do not appear at polling stations or centers in their nose masks. But let's take what the EC's Director of Electoral Services, Dr. Sribo Kwako, had to say about the issue of people taking photos of their ballot sheets.
kind of message does it send?
Is specific that the choice of balloting should be in secrecy. So the moment you take snapshot of your thumbprint or the ballot paper, you have breached the law. And yesterday, I know 3 people so far have been arrested. And it is my wish that those who are given custodial sentence before 7th December to serve as warning to others. We should be people who respect the laws of the country. We cannot take the laws into our own hands. That is indiscipline. So anybody who did that flouted the law, and they should bow their heads in shame. Why would you take snapshot of your vote? What is the need for it? And by so doing, you are breaching the laws of the country, and should be sanctioned severely and with swiftness that it demands to serve as warning to others.
Well, as you heard from lawyer Martin Pebu, it may not be as clear-cut as Dr. Serep Okwaku is putting it in terms of breaking the law. But let me come to you as we wrap up a conversation with you, lawyer Martin Pebu. So during the special voting exercise, apart from issue of taking of photos, there was the concern that a lot of people didn't come in nose masks, and some of them who even came, some came in branded nose masks. I mean, political parties branded nose mask, and that's not even allowed at the polling centers. Does the EC have the power to turn people away if they do not appear in nose masks on December 7th?
Hello?
Hello, lawyer Pebu. Can you hear me,
I
please?
lost the last part. I said some people come in with...
I was saying that, yeah, people came to the polling centers in political party branded nose masks. That's not allowed, because it's branding, and you don't allow that at the polling centers or stations. So some of them had to take it off. Others didn't come in nose masks at all. And the EC raised concerns about that, obviously because of the coronavirus pandemic. But I'm asking if the EC or its officials have the power to turn people away if they do not appear in a nose mask.
Strictly speaking, it would appear so, because you see, we have a law of the land that says that if you are coming out in public, you should be in a mask. Okay? Yes, so if a voter, a prospective voter turns out without a mask, it would appear that the EC will be condoning, will be aiding and abetting in breaking the law if they allow such a voter to vote without the mask. So that one I can perfectly understand when the EC turns away such persons.
I appreciate your time this morning. Martin Pebu is a lawyer, and we've been talking about issues that came up after the special voting exercise on Tuesday. Now, apart from these that we're speaking about, there's also the other one about vote buying and the fact that some parties and their representatives were at polling centers with snacks and food ready to give to persons either before they cast their votes or after they've done so. Here's what the EC's Director of Electoral Services had to say about that.
In the queue, they don't have to do that. They'll be disrupting the process. But if the people had already finished voting, the choice has been made. So if they're going and somebody decides to give them food, but that one, I would not say that that one was used to influence them. But if they were going to vote or they were in the queue before voting, I don't think it's to be proper.
Okay.
I would say that all stakeholders, the media, civil society organizations, observers, party reps, and the party executives, the voters all comported themselves. We are expecting that we should replicate them on 7th December.
You heard the Director of Electoral Services at the Electoral Commission, Dr. Serep Okwaku, speaking to Mama Vio Wusu-Abuaje earlier on the AM show. Now, General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, John Buedu, has expressed satisfaction about the conduct of the polls at various centers. He, however, says the parties ought to do a lot more to get people to cast their ballot on December 7 because a lot of people didn't turn up to vote during the special voting exercise. The General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party has been speaking to Richard Kojonyako.
So the special voting exercise has just ended. It's 5 p.m. and then the last people or the persons that were in the queue have just cast their ballot. And so currently the Electoral Commission officials are packing their things. They are reconciling a lot of things with the party agent here, the MPP, and then the NDC agent here. It's been somewhat smooth sailing with the exception of a few issues that some of the security personnel could not find their names. But that one, the regional police commander has indicated to us that these persons that were affected would be placed in the various polling stations that they ordinarily would have voted so that they would not be disenfranchised. So far it's been smooth sailing. There have not been any incident whatsoever. The biometric machines have been working perfectly, and all the party agents can attest to the fact that things have really gone well. We had an interaction with the General Secretary of the New Patriotic Party, Mr. John Buedu, and he was of the opinion that in fact they have been hugely impressed by how the conduct have gone. He's visited a number of these polling stations and they say that the MPP is very, very satisfied.
If you look for the Electoral Commission itself, everywhere we've been to, they've not complained about the effect of the machines, and they have even said that if a voter comes and is unable to biometrically go through the facial recognition that the Electoral Commission promise works, to the extent that they are even saying that it is embedded in the machine manual verification process, which we even didn't know. The last IPAC meeting, the Electoral Commission raised it and even insisted that at the end of the day we won't even have somebody going through manual verification who have to even go further and sign, because the machine itself take cognizance of that. And I think that is something positive that they need to be commended. I think that they are right in the decision they took to ensure that our process gets finer and better as the years go by. And I believe that we all need to encourage them.
One issue that he raised was the turnout, and he felt that with a special voting, for instance, they were expecting about 98–99% of the people to turn out to come and cast their ballot. But as it stands now, they didn't get everybody, so they are going to embark on a special exercise. They want everybody to be involved.
I was thinking that we'll get about 98–99% turnout, but in some of the few places there were differences, but only that I'm surprised because it is just within just 2 weeks that they opted to vote as special voters, and I want to believe that it's for special reasons. Not that bad, but I expected around 98%. Strangely, in most countries that have had elections in this COVID time have experienced massive turnout, and I don't expect us to be an exception. Coupled with the fact that anytime we do registration in a year of election, there's also massive turnout. We want the Ghanaian people to turn out in their numbers to endorse Nana Addo once again as the president of the country, for him to continue to deliver the good deeds that he's been delivering for the people of this country. So we are looking forward to a massive turnout, and you can be sure that with a massive turnout, we'll obviously get at 54–56% for Nana Addo and get majority in Parliament.
The NDC parliamentary candidate for Cape Coast South, he's been stationed here at the regional police headquarters where the special voting is underway all day. He will tell us about how the event or the special voting process went for him.
Pretty much everyone else, you know, say they were able to identify them with their tampering. So You know, sometimes these machines they work quite well when the volumes are low, but when the numbers, you know, becomes huge, that's when they are tested, you know, heating and all that other stuff. So we hope that if what we have seen here is anything to go by, we hope that it will be able to handle the volumes as well, because that's a different proposition when you are dealing with those volumes. Well, we hope that the machines are robust enough. They've been tested to deal with, because this is a people's business, which means that we're going to have volumes in terms of human beings who will turn up, you know, to vote here. And we hope that the systems have been, you know, tested robustly to be able to handle the volumes when they do come on the 7th of December.
The NPP parliamentary candidate for the Cape Coast South constituency, who is the MC for the area, Ernest Arthur, is also very satisfied. He says going forward, they are going to ensure that they pool resources to get people to come and actually cast their ballot on December 7th.
Education should be more. And then maybe for those of them who are not around the city, who are out of the city, we need to put resources together and make sure they are here. But most importantly, the education and the publicity should be more. Encourage them to come and vote. It's their right. They should take interest in the voting process and make sure they vote, because whatever you put in determines what becomes of you tomorrow.
So far, the polls that were conducted today, the special voting that took place here, was okay for them. Reporting for Joy News, my name is Richard Kwejenyako, Cape Coast.
And that was Richard Kojonyako with a wrap of events during the special voting exercise in Cape Coast on Tuesday. Now, away from election-related news, the UK has approved the Pfizer-BioNTech coronavirus vaccine for mass use next week. The country has already pre-ordered 40 million doses to deal with the virus, which has claimed over 1.4 million lives worldwide since it broke out in Wuhan, China. Since the outbreak, there's been a race against time to produce an efficient vaccine, and the news of this one being approved for mass use has been greeted with a lot of excitement. Not to burst anyone's bubble, but should we be really excited? Especially for those of us in Africa and Ghana? Well, I've been joined by an immunologist with the West African Center for Cell Biology of Infectious Pathogens, WASPIP, Dr. Yao Bediako. Doc, good news or not?
Good morning. It's nice to be on your show again, Bernice. I think it is good news. I mean, whenever there's a vaccine that is approved for use anywhere, I think we should be excited. This is something that in many ways is unprecedented. Most vaccines take over 10 years to develop. So the fact that we have 3 that have been greeted with certain amount of success, I think is something we should be enthusiastic about. However, I think, many scientists would say we have to temper the enthusiasm with a certain amount of, of caution. Because of the nature of the pandemic, everything is being rushed, including the sort of the regulations, or at least the registration process. So typically, clinical trials like this would take a lot longer, and we'd amass a lot more data before we knew for sure how effective a vaccine was. Given the emergency of this situation, these timelines have been condensed. So the Pfizer vaccine that you're talking about that has recently been approved in the UK has shown very encouraging results so far. But in most cases, these would be viewed as quite preliminary. The number of, they vaccinated basically 40,000 people. They saw 170 odd cases. 90% of these cases were in the placebo. So that gives you, the placebo arm of the trial, suggesting that the vaccine itself was maybe 90%, 95% effective. But 170 people is a very small number out of 40,000. So I think many scientists are cautiously optimistic. I think we should celebrate, yes, but only time is going to tell truly how long this protection lasts. Once again, the trial was relatively short. It was a month or 2. So Pfizer is collecting more and more data, continue to follow these people to see if the protection continues to last. So I think we have to be a little bit cautious. In terms of our part of the world, I think we have to be even more guarded in our joy, because the fact that the UK has 40 million, has ordered 40 million doses, Ghana has yet to order a single dose, right? And this is purely economics. These vaccines are not cheap. And large industrialized countries like the US and in Europe have pre-ordered significantly high numbers of these. They've basically stockpiled or pre-ordered large numbers of these vaccines that far outstrips the ability of these companies to actually manufacture them. So, this vaccine, all three vaccines actually currently out are 2-dose regimens. So if the UK has ordered 40 million, that means they can vaccinate 20 million people. Africa has a population of 1.3 billion, which means we'll need double that number of doses. And that is way above the number that these companies are going to be able to make in the next year. And as I said, they already have pre-orders from large countries.
All right.
So that is the issue now that we have. No matter how useful or efficacious the vaccine is, there needs to be engagement to make sure that African countries get access to this vaccine.
All right, Doc. So there's a lot of questions flying through my mind. Let me just start from this point. So for us here in Africa, is it prudent that we start or we continue, as we're told, we are trying to develop our own vaccine? Is it prudent that we continue on that tangent, seeing that, like you mentioned, the sample for the trials very small, and I'm not sure anybody in any African country was used as a study, and we know how different sometimes these things work in different parts of the world. So should we be still pursuing that agenda of creating our own vaccine, or we can pull the brakes at least? And does it work this way? Are they allowed to also send maybe the method or the formula for the vaccine, and we make our own localized version? How does it work?
So, I think vaccine development is years. It takes years to do, and you have to build up the capacity to do so. Currently in Africa, we really don't have the ability, even in South Africa, which is probably the most advanced, we don't currently have the ability to actually develop, or at least fully develop, a vaccine. And I actually don't think any work for COVID anyway is happening in that direction. What we do have the ability to do, and this is happening, is we have certain places have the capacity to test, to conduct clinical trials. So actually, the Pfizer vaccine was tested in South Africa. That was the only African country that I'm aware of was included in the trial. And you raised a very important point. I've heard on the media lately, people talking about, we don't want to test any vaccine in Ghana. We don't want to test anybody's vaccine. That is actually, I would say, a very poor way of thinking. Because in order, like you said, for us to know whether or not these vaccines work in our population, they need to be trialed here. And I like to, assure your viewers, before a vaccine is allowed to be used in a clinical trial, it's gone through a lot of safety checks. There may still be one or two adverse events, but it really is the nature of research that you need to test these things out. And so we mustn't exclude ourselves. I've heard even sometimes health officials talking about how we won't test any vaccine in Ghana. That to me is the wrong approach. We should be we should be looking for ways to include ourselves in these clinical trials. Of course, making sure that things are safe and verified before we expose our population to them. But that is the only way we will know how well these vaccines work in our populations. In terms of sharing the formula, this is intellectual property. These companies have invested billions of dollars in developing this vaccine. They need to recoup their investment. So I know that there has been some engagement to allow, I think the Serum Institute in India to produce large amounts of some of these vaccines for the developing world at a very low cost. And those kind of engagements need to continue. But it's not, it's not as simple as just saying, oh, give us the formula. They have invested billions of dollars. If they give us the formula and we start making it, how do they recoup their investment? So yesterday I heard an official of the Africa CDC say Africa requires about $12 billion to be able to purchase vaccines for 60% of the population on the continent. So I think we need our governments to start figuring out where they are going to get $12 billion, whether it's through aid or through governments themselves ponying up cash, to really begin to now start placing orders the way countries in Europe and North America have done. And then, I mean, the WHO, I will finally add, the WHO has a system called COVAX, which is basically trying to leverage rich countries to pay for the vaccine for poorer countries. Because, of course, if they vaccinate their population, but the virus is still in Africa, then it sets up an issue where you could get reintroduction of the virus, right? So it is to their benefit if other countries, even if we can't afford it ourselves, get access to the vaccine. So there needs to be political pressure as well to encourage large industrialized countries to pay money or to support initiatives like COVAX that would hopefully provide the vaccine to less fortunate countries, especially on the continent.
All right, Doc, so we're told that the UK mass testing begins just next week. Elections begin here next week, at least. That's what we're looking forward to here in Ghana. So how far off are we from getting this vaccine? I mean, you've raised the issue of economics and the fact that many other countries have invested in, so they have an upper hand when it comes to ordering the doses. But apart from that, I mean, how realistic, what timeline will be the most realistic in terms of saying, okay, Ghana may receive this particular vaccine?
All right, so the most optimistic, and I think it was highly optimistic, the most optimistic sort of forecast I've heard is that we might see some vaccine on the continent in the second quarter of 2021. Now, I think that is quite optimistic, but that is what Africa CDC is hoping for, that there will be some vaccines perhaps available to the most vulnerable, so frontline healthcare workers and probably the very elderly or people with certain underlying conditions may get access to some vaccine by second quarter of 2021. But that is assuming that the funds required can be marshaled. But I would also add, this vaccine, especially the Pfizer vaccine that has been approved in the UK, requires significant cold chain. So it needs to be stored at minus 70 degrees, which is 40 degrees colder than your standard freezer. And that means that when you think of using it in resource limited settings, even using it in the US and in Europe, they are going to have certain challenges. Now, how much more across Ghana? There are probably very few facilities in Ghana outside of Noguchi and here at Wakbip and maybe Kolebu. I don't think there are very many facilities in Ghana that have minus 80 freezers. So storing the vaccine would be a challenge. Transporting it across the country. I'm sure we've all seen the yellow fever and the polio vaccinations. They walk around with an ice box, a cooler. That won't work for this vaccine. You need dry ice. So logistically, this vaccine presents certain challenges that are going to have to be worked out beyond simply just getting access to the vaccine. But I've heard the Africa CDC say second quarter of 2021. So we can hope and pray that that is actually the case. But even that will not be for everybody. So it wouldn't be for all people in Ghana. It would probably be for a small segment of people. So I think we're looking end of 2021, early 2022 is probably the best bet. So I would agree with the Ghana Health Service that we need to stick with the guidelines. Stay with your mask, stay with your hand sanitizer, especially during the period of the election when we're all moving around. Stay protected, because just because there's a vaccine doesn't mean we're going to get it in Ghana just yet.
I appreciate your time this morning. Dr. Iyal Bediako is an immunologist with the WASPIP, and I appreciate talking to you every time. Hopefully the next time we'll be talking some good news with regards to Ghana receiving vaccines against COVID-19. Now, the National Prayer Director of Aglo International, Gifty Afenyi-Dadzie, has cautioned Ghanaians to approach issues with wisdom and tact ahead of next week Monday's elections. Gifty Afenyi-Dadzie is the third influential and what's called spiritual mother of the land to preach peace. Enjoy time in his presence on Joy FM ahead of the elections. According to her, inflammatory language will not be worth it this time, pleading with Ghanaians not to involve themselves in any disputes ahead of the polls.
Shiba, and through it to Joab. We cannot cut the head of people, but we can go into intercession as Esther and the maids did and change the atmosphere supernaturally as we go into fasting and prayer, and we beseech God that take out every form of Shiba, a troublemaker in the communities and the vicinities. God will listen to our prayer. Let's go there with our wise counsel as we go into the queues with our wise counsel. Let everybody submit to the protocols, COVID protocols. Let us go to the polling stations well marked up. Let us wear our mask. social distancing, sanitize ourselves. Don't let us go and be part of quarrels, because life and death are in the power of the tongue. Don't let us go and begin to spew foul language. Let us go there with our wise counsel. Those who are perpetuating evil, those who are bent on causing mayhem, let us approach them with wisdom and tact and let them know that this is just an election and that God is in it. And so may God cause us as women to be on his side. And as we are on his side, the men will follow. I came to let you know that you cannot disappoint God. Because what is going to happen is that Psalm 37 from 12 says that the wicked plot against the righteous and gnash their teeth at them, but the Lord laughs at the wicked, for he knows their day is coming. The wicked draw the sword and bend the bow to slay those whose ways are upright, but their swords will pierce their own hearts and their bows will be broken. Amen.
So for the rest of the week, every morning on Joy 99.7 FM at 5 a.m., we have influential women passing through our studios to share their words of encouragement and also words of inspiration ahead of the elections. This is News Desk with me, Bernice Abubedulansa. Coming up shortly, the Microfinance and Small Loans Center begins disbursement of 2 million cedis to traders affected by recent fire incident at Odona Market. Darryl Kwao is standing by with details to stay.
Hi there, time for business. My name is Darryl Kwao. The Microfinance and Small Loan Center, MASLOC, is expected to commence the disbursement of 2 million cedis to traders who lost their wares at the recent fire incident at the Odona Market here in Accra. The fund is expected to take care of about 1,000 traders and is different from that being offered by the National Board for Small-Scale Industries. There's more in this report.
At a short ceremony to present a dummy check to the market women, the Microfinance and Small Loans Center announced that 1,000 victims of the inferno have been identified through the database from the Kolikulote Municipal Assembly. The loan will cater for more than half of the traders without any interest and a one-year moratorium for repayment. Deputy Chief Executive of the Microfinance and Small Loan Center, Efia Akoto, spoke with Joy Business after the ceremony to disperse the first tranche of funds to beneficiaries.
We came to support these business women with some money to help them start again whatever they lost some weeks ago. This is a loan that is going to be an interest-free loan, and this is something that hardly happens on the MASLOC. Every loan from MASLOC comes with an interest. It's an interest-free loan, and aside that, we are giving them a whole year to work with without payment, and after the year, then they can start the repayment schedule.
The traders expressed confidence the fund will be used judiciously to revive their business. Speaking on their behalf, General Secretary of the Odona Traders Association, Bernice Adako-Klote, appealed to government to fast-track processes to get the market to operate again as soon as possible.
I have to say now to the government is that it should come and build our market for us again in a good way. Not in a way that maybe when there's a fire, the fire service cannot pass through and even quench the fire. We want him to come and make Provincial Shopping Mall a great market for us. He should come and make the market strong for us so that nothing will happen again for the market people. Because you can't work and then just be in the house for 2 years, 3 years before you hear it. Everything that you work for is gone. So we want the market, the government to come and build our market for us very, very, very well, so that tomorrow our children too will enjoy it.
Each trader is expected to get at least 2,000 cedis from the fund.
Now to the politics of 1D, 1F. Deputy Ranking Member on Parliament's Trade and Industry Committee, Yusuf Suleimana, says the One District, One Factory initiative under the MPP government has been a failure. According to him, majority of companies under the initiative were started by the NDC government. Mr. Suleimana tells Joy Business lots of factories under the initiative are not functioning because they have not been properly thought through.
That most of the projects that they claim they've done got support from especially John Dramani Mohammed's administration. I worked with SM Bank, hitherto EDIF, okay, and we had given so much to these companies that they have put under 1D, 1F. Most of them got support 2-3 times under us. We didn't name them as 1D, 1F. So if we were to separate those ones, okay, from the total number of factories that they said they had done, then you realize that they've done nothing. You need to give attention to the raw material base. You don't rush in putting up the factory when you don't have the raw material. What we are doing, I repeat, is just to help build white elephants. They fail because of this populist approach to the whole concept of industrialization. And I keep saying this, rural industrialization is the way to go. But it's not for you to just walk around and say that everywhere you see land, you want to put a factory there. No, you have to ensure that basic economics, okay, factors of production, okay, you need raw material. Raw material is very essential in all this. So if you don't build the raw material base, why are you putting up a factory? And we are saying that we'll take our time to build the raw material base, we'll take our time to make provisions or solve the technical issues, ensure that, look, the factory can run throughout the year. Once you do this, we are good to go.
Meanwhile, the 1D1F Secretariat has said that 76 factories are currently operational, including 48 revived ones. It says another 94 are under construction. Here's Deputy Minister for Employment and Labour Relations, Bright Rekubrobe.
A lot of things have been done already on the ground. So the second term of His Excellency Nana Addo is a take-off stage. So we are going to see massive development. We are not now going to use resources to be paying debts, which we came to meet. We are now going to use the resources to actually put in place what we have intended and have planned with the people. So we are going to see massive development come 2021 and beyond.
And that's it for business. Sports is up next.